Judah, and on behalf of Nancy and Kai and Maya and their families, I want to welcome you here this morning. I can't tell you how much it means to see all of you here. It just makes such a difference. It's been a long journey for Peter and a long journey for this family. In many ways, you've been grieving, losing parts of Peter for a while now. And despite all of that, he adapted. I love the picture of him on his bike. He found a way to adapt, but so did all of you. You adapted. And you were there with him. You were there for him through that long journey over the years. And you were right there with him when he was finally free from that terrible disease. You were right there with him. I might be a minister, but I don't pretend to know what happens next after this life. There's a lot of different theories, beliefs, and feelings. But I know that even though we lose the one we love, that person is always with us. There's parts of that person that are with us. Husband, father, grandfather, a friend, a therapist who touched so many lives, a person who received care and then became more than that and a friend. Those parts that we carry with us, they live on right here. And when we share memories, when we tell stories like we're going to do today, when we come together like we are this morning, we nourish those memories. We nourish those parts. We nourish that spirit that continues with us. I love this photo. That gleeful grin. You know, I couldn't help but remember when I saw that photo that years ago, we would do a polar plunge right out here on Front Beach. And the first time that Pete came, he didn't plan to go in. And then next thing you know, he was running down the beach in his BVDs, jumping into the water. And when he came out, he had that look, that zany, gleeful look. Peter and I also shared a passion for working with kids. In fact, back in the 80s, when I first got to know Peter and Nancy, we discovered that we had both worked with this same girl, that she was at the Orchard home when Peter was there, and then she came to a program that I ran in Beverly. And I remember when she came and I first got talking with her, she was talking about this counselor at Orchard home that meant so much to her. And it turned out to be Peter. And I've stayed in touch with that young girl, and she's now grown up and she has a beautiful daughter, and she also has her PhD. So you never know what kind of effect you're going to have on people. Never know what others may take away from your life. And I know that's why you're all here today, because you have that. So it's an honor for me to be here today, to honor Pete, to support all of you. And during this time, I want to encourage you to let whatever feelings come. All those feelings are okay. If there's a tear that runs down your cheek, that's okay. It's a time for tears. Death is so damn final. But also, as you sit here and you remember and you see some of these pictures that come up, and you start to smile or you can't help but laughing, that's okay too. Because that's how it is. It's two sides of the same coin. We have those feelings of sorrow but also those wonderful feelings of joy. So I want to invite everyone as we begin today to just take a moment, to take a few deep breaths. It's always good to take 3. I like 3 deep breaths. And to just be present with those feelings, with those memories, just where you are right now. There's a reading, we looked at a number of readings, and there was one that really kind of felt right for this. It's called Death is Not the Enemy by Joshua Liebman. It goes like this. I often feel that death is not the enemy of life, but its friend. For it is the knowledge that our years are limited, which makes them so precious. It is the truth that time is but lent to us, which makes us at our best look upon our years as a trust handed into our temporary keeping. We are like children, privileged to spend a day in a great park, a park filled with many gardens and playgrounds and azure-tinted lakes and boats sailing on tranquil waves. True, the day allotted to us is not the same in length, in light, or in beauty. Some are privileged to spend a long and sunlit day in the garden of the earth, and others, the day is shorter, cloudier, and dusk descends more quickly as it does in winter. But whether our life is a long summery day or a shorter wintry afternoon, we know that inevitably there are storms and squalls which overcast even the bluest heaven, and there are sunlit rays which pierce the darkest autumn sky. The day we are privileged to spend in the great park of life is not the same for all, but there's enough beauty and joy and fullness in the hours if we will but treasure them. Then for each of us, the moment comes when the great nurse Death takes us by the hand and quietly says, it's time to go home. Night is coming. It's your bedtime, child of the earth. Come, you are tired. Lie down at last in the quiet nursery of nature and sleep. Sleep well. The day is gone, and the stars shine in the canopy of eternity. We're going to take some time to share some memories, some stories today. And I know you all have some story or some memory, so we're going to do as many as we can, and then you can also just share some of those with the family. But to start us off, Maya's going to come, and then we'll kind of open it up, and then Kai will close us.
How's that? Good. Okay. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to say a few words about my dad. See if I can do it. My dad was smart, generous, loving, kind, and hilarious, sometimes bordering on wildly inappropriate. His humor and pranks often took center stage and were a core part of my childhood. As this is a celebration of my dad, I think you would be thrilled to know that some of his pranks are being told again. When I was 7, my dad took me to my first Patriots game. I was playing football at the time on an all-boys team, and so I was very excited. I'd never been to a professional stadium or football game, and I had a lot of questions on the drive. I asked my dad if the stadium had bathrooms. This was important to me. I was 7, I'm not sure why. And likely because he thought this question was a little ridiculous, he told me that no, they did not. I anxiously asked what would happen if I needed to go, and he told me not to worry. When we hand them our tickets to go into the game, they will give us a diaper. When I asked what we do with it, where do we put the diaper on? Because there's no bathrooms. He said you pull your pants down right there and you do it right there. And then I burst into tears. And then he assured me that yes, there were in fact bathrooms. At 10, my dad took my brother and I out for dinner, and I was sporting 2 massive black eyes after I had broken my nose, playing with my brother. The waitress came to take our order, and I hesitated, not yet knowing what I wanted to drink. My dad, seeing a perfect opportunity to freak someone out, loudly exclaimed in front of the waitress, "Come on, Maya, you know what happened the last time you took so long." The waitress, seeing both of my black eyes, ran for the hills. Although my dad loved a good joke, there were a few things he cherished more: his family, his work, and his big black truck. Above all, though, was his family. My dad had a challenging and traumatic childhood, and the demons of his early years stayed with him throughout his life. However, he was adamant that he would not pass on that same trauma to his kids. He talked often about wanting to change the direction of the river and give my brother and I a better foundation and a better life than he had. He worked hard at this every day and passed on values and morals to us that we both still hold close. In our preteen and adolescent years, a time where kids can often veer off track, he and my mom implemented family meetings every Sunday. I guess we shouldn't be too surprised coming from 2 social workers. Family meetings consisted of all of us sitting down together and talking about the week, any issues that had come up, or successes. Much to my and my brother's chagrin, family meetings also often focused on who we were dating at the time and how we were spending our time with them. Not surprisingly, we somewhat despised these meetings. They often led to hard, awkward, and emotional conversations, but my parents were adamant that they continue, and ultimately they worked. It brought our family closer together, and especially my brother and I closer together. Kai and I learned not to shy away from difficult conversations, that we could go to my parents with anything, and if we didn't, well, they'd find out somehow anyways and bring it up in a family meeting. My dad was not shy about how he felt about my brother and I, and he told us often and daily. For as long as I can remember, my dad told me that I would He told me that I was strong, tough, and smart. Even when I told him about small things I had done, his response was often a genuine, "You're really smart, Maya," or "Damn, you're tough." As a young girl, hearing this so often bolstered my self-esteem. And when you hear it all the time, it's easy to start to believe it. They became qualities I hold in my core, and I hope to do the same for my daughter. There is no way my dad would have ever allowed me to get up and give a speech like this if I didn't recognize someone else as well. Because of my dad's upbringing, he felt lost early on until he met my mom. He credits my mom for saving him, for guiding him into the person he became, and for giving him a future at a time when he wasn't sure what that would look like. Every dinner speech he gave within our family, he recognized my mom. Her hard work in raising us, her patience with him when he struggled, and the never-ending love she poured into our family. He knew that without her, he would not have had the life he did. So on behalf of Dad, thank you, Mom. And to my dad, we will continue to hold you close and will always remember the love you gave us. Thank you.
Thanks, Maya. I know there are other folks that may have something to say, so come on up. It's always hard to be that person, especially following Maya, but have courage.
Hi everyone, my name is Josh Zimmerman. Kai, Nancy, Maya, Sophia, friends and family. I had the honor of meeting Pete 22 years ago when he became my therapist when I moved here from the West Coast. And since then, for 22 years, we spoke every single week until January of this year. Even when he retired, he refused to not meet with me on Sunday. And there were a lot of jokes, a lot of talking about the kids, the grandkids, and Nancy. And years ago, during a really difficult time, Pete shared with me his favorite poem, which has been a bedrock for me and my clients. So I wanted to share it with all of you. It was If by Rudyard Kipling. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowances for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired of waiting or being lied about, don't deal in lies. Or being hated, don't give way to hating. And yet, don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch things you gave your life to broken and stop and build them up with worn out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and lose and risk it all on one turn of pitch and toss and lose and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word of your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your term long after they are gone, and hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run. Yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And which is more, you'll be a man, my son. Thank you all, and thank you to the Cameron Gilsey family for sharing Pete with me.
Greetings to all of you. A heartfelt 2 minutes. When Peter was forced to retire abruptly 5 years ago, he referred a handful of remarkable individuals to me. I'm a psychologist. These highly resilient parents, like Peter himself, had worked with Peter over time. I wrote one of the first books on resilience in 1994, so I know him when I see him. Collaborating with Peter, these clients navigated unusually challenging family circumstances quite successfully. Serendipitously, I suddenly had a rare window into the sustained work of another clinician. Wow. Peter, what an extraordinarily gifted clinician you were and are, for you continue in us and in our relationships. Wise, skilled, quirky, devoted, riddled with off-angled perception, and incredibly effective. It only counts if people's lives are better, are lived better. Our consultations during the transition led us to a close, disclosing, hilarious, and heartfelt connection. How graced I am to have known you as you kept going. Exploring, expanding your heart and mind as your body contracted, feeding others as you could, still you. Peter, I now have the most vivid sense of your bouncing and bounding exuberantly from floor to ceiling, earth to sky, free of your body's ultimate confines. I also sense that you are here now to be with us, assembled on your behalf, finally knowing that you are deeply valued and beloved. Thank you.
Several years ago, I met a girl in New York, and the initial courtship wasn't going as I'd hoped, to put it lightly. And this breeded some insecurity in me and destabilized me a little bit. So I opened up to Kai, who's been like a brother to me for 20 years at this point, since freshman year at the prep. And he said, you should reach out to my dad. I'll prime him for the conversation. I'll let him know you're calling. And at this point, I knew Peter as a wise and learned man, because he's the only person I've ever known to frame his report card and keep it in the upstairs bathroom. Nancy, you're gonna have to fact check, but A, B-. But this was, I've always respected Peter, but I've never ventured into these vulnerable territory with him. So I was a ball of anxiety, and I left my apartment, I left my roommates, and I went out to Prospect Park, put on my headphones, and I gave him a call. It rings once, it rings twice, and I'm like, nice, he's not gonna pick up, crisis averted here. And on the third ring, there's a pause, and you just hear at the other end, you're not standing near a bridge, are you? And all my anxiety just washed away. And for the next hour, I got the full Peter Gilsey experience. He was a man with incredible emotional depth, someone who could say something so profound and empathetic, and then in the next breath, say something so cutting that if it wasn't so clever, it would probably be a little hurtful. But I was so forever grateful for that conversation because I really feel like we've reached new frontiers in our relationship. And since then, we had kept in touch in ways that, we probably wouldn't have otherwise. And if Peter at the time had known that girl had turned into my wife, he probably would have charged me for the session. Hopefully I'll have another chance to give it to him, so thank you.
Good morning. Nancy, thank you for the opportunity and the ask to say a few words on behalf of Peter. My name is Kim Jackson. I've known Peter Cameron Gilsey since approximately 2014. Started working with him with one of my kids, and it quickly evolved into a family affair, shall we say. Cluster F for family, cluster F for 5-alarm fire, and cluster F, if you were Peter Cameron Gilsey, was his new ICD-10 code for what was going on. So I'll try to stay on point here and prepared a few words that I think capture the essence of Peter Cameron Gilsey and his counseling style. So thank you for allowing me. So today we gather to honor the life and legacy of someone who is more than a therapist. Peter Cameron Gilsey was a guide, a rock, and at times a much needed voice of raw honesty. We stand here not only in mourning, but in deep gratitude for the unwavering support Peter Cameron Gilsey provided to many families on the North Shore during some of the most difficult times of their lives. Our family was a case to be reckoned with, a Gordian knot. Peter's words, not mine. The term Gordian knot dates back to the times of Alexander the Great, describing an intricate, convoluted, complex knot that was impossible to untie. In modern times, and in our case, it is a proverbial term for a problem solvable only by bold action. Enter Peter Cameron Gilsey. It's rare to encounter someone who isn't afraid to be themselves, especially when dealing with vulnerable, emotional, and sometimes very messy moments. Peter Cameron Gilsey was unconventional, yes, never quite fitting into the mold of what we might think is a traditional therapist. But perhaps that's what made him so effective. He was clever, gifted, brilliant. Many therapy sessions came in the form of an animated monologue, a single character theater production where choice words, dramatic facial giant body gestures were the norm. He understood that healing doesn't come in neat, orderly packages. Sometimes it comes with love, tough words, and even the occasional curse. And that's what it took to break through our walls. In these moments, we learn that there's power in being real and saying what needs to be said, even if it's messy, unpolished, and a little raw. And that's what Peter Cameron Gilsey was, real. He met our family where we were at. never judging, always challenging, but most importantly, always being there when we needed guidance, support, and even when we just needed someone to say, yeah, this is hard and you're allowed to feel it. He didn't sugarcoat things for our teenagers, who were at times, and I will say, and can say, and attest, a lot of time in turmoil. And he never shied away for having those hard conversations. But that was the beauty of it. The honesty, the directness, and the refusal to treat us like we were anything less than capable of facing our challenges head on. Peter Cameron Gilsey was a no-nonsense, straight shooter type, but his genuine kindness, and deep understanding always shone through, even in those moments when we felt like we were at our lowest. There were many sessions where we laughed until we cried, and other times where tears flowed because we were finally facing what we had been avoiding all along. But through it all, there was never a doubt in our minds that we were in good hands. Peter Cameron Gilsey didn't just help us survive the storm, and I'll tell you, at times, even survive for me felt like a reach. We learned how to weather it individually and together as a family. Today we say goodbye to Peter Cameron Gilsey, but his legacy will live on in the lessons we carry forward. The courage to be real, the importance of honesty, and the reminder that healing is not straight line, but a journey that we take together. To our dear Peter Cameron Gilsey, thank you for never giving up on us, for seeing the potential in each of us, and for guiding us through the chaos. You were more than a therapist. You were a lifeline, and we will miss you deeply. Rest in peace, and may your memory and legacy continue to inspire all of us who were lucky enough to know you. Thank you.
Here in 1974, registering for classes at Beloit College. At Beloit, we had to stand in line in order to register, and Peter was behind me, or in front of me, I can't remember, it's been a few years, with a briefcase. I think he's the only person I've ever met who would go to college and hold on to a briefcase while he was registering, so that gives you an idea of where he was coming from. We became really close friends, and I was just recounting to Nancy how he lived in a house down the street from me, and he would come over with his toothbrush in his pajamas, and we would have sleepovers. And there was never any romantic involvement, I swear to God. But Peter and I, through the years, kept in touch, and in the last years before he got very sick, we would meet for dates in Boston or up here where we would just talk. And I went through a lot of years with him talking about his family and talking about his challenges and other things that were going on in my life. And I miss that. But I still have incredible memories of that, and I think you guys must embody some of those crazy things as you know. So anyway, thank you for letting him be a part of my life as well.
I'm Patrick Corcoran. I'm a longtime friend of Kai and the Cameron Gilsey clan. Apologies in advance for some of the swear words, but let's be honest, Peter would want it this way. Peter loved music. In fact, whenever I hear Tom Petty's Free Fallin', I do and always will think of him. It was the spring of 2003, our sophomore year in high school, And it was the Gilsey's family turn to drive Kai, our friend Matt, who you all met, and I to some far-flung weekend AAU basketball tournament hours away. Peter volunteered to take us, which guaranteed two things. We'd be entertained with his stories, quips, and hilarious observation for hours on end, and we'd be driving in the Beast. The Beast was the family nickname given to the Gilsey's 1986 Chevrolet Suburban. It was 3 different shades of shock blue, a monstrous, hulking behemoth of a car that had enough room in the back to lay a full-size mattress down. We treasured our rides in the Beast, and Kai would eventually inherit this as his first car. After graciously encouraging us to lay down in the back for a nap, no, guys, take a nap for the game, yeah. I think Peter got a little bored and wanted some company. And Peter decided to deliberately steer the Beast over the highway rumble strip, waking us all up from a dead sleep. Oh, you guys up back there? Oh, yeah, we're almost there. Soon after, Peter was blasting Tom Petty's Free Fallin' from the radio, with us joining in and screaming the chorus together as we crossed over state lines. Did I ever tell you guys how I got those huge dents on the front and side of the Beast? Peter asked us as we continued driving. He immediately launched into character, us hanging on to every words. I was driving up 128 on my way to pick up Maya from soccer when out of nowhere this big-ass fucking full-grown deer flies out of the woods and screams right in front of me. I'm fighting the wheel, I'm barely keeping control as I pull off the side of the road, and I am rattled. And then, like a goddamn scene from Deliverance, out of the woods comes these 2 degenerate redneck hicks. Laying on thick, Peter hunches over the wheel, transforming into one of them. They come up to me, and the first thing they say is, "Not all right, hey, everything okay?" I say, "Hey man, are you gonna eat that meat?" We laughed and laughed. In closing, I'd like to pay tribute to Peter through who else but our friend Tom Petty in his 1996 song, Walls. Quote, "Some things are over, some things go on. Part of me you'll carry, part of me is gone. Sometimes you're happy, and sometimes you cry. Part of me is ocean, and part of me is sky." Rest easy, Peter, we'll miss you.
My name is Liz Malone, and Nancy, Kai, Maya. I worked with Peter at Addison Gilbert Hospital. And it's hard to describe Peter, and from a coworker's perspective, let me just tell you, he was a blast to work with. We did a lot of good work, and we did a lot of difficult work. And Peter's presence as the social worker made it seem easy. My role, I had different roles there. I'm a nurse, and I was the intake coordinator. And which involved a lot of different things. And he instinctively knew when, well, I can't hide it in my Irish face, but he knew when I was getting overwhelmed. So he would just come up to me and say, "Liz, are you whelmed?" And that would just crack me up to the point where I could go back and do my job. And I haven't seen Peter in a very long time, and I was shocked to hear of the news. And he will live in my heart. And I remember him talking about the two of you, and I remember seeing you as towheads, as kids, and to see you all grown up, and to hear you speak is just a wonderful gift. That's really all I want to say. Bless Peter.
Wow. My name is Jeff Prince, and I'm really honored to have the opportunity to speak about Peter. I would just say Peter really is probably for so many of us here, such a dear, I would even say soul friend, or in Irish, an anam cara. And the connection with Peter is so deep. And he's one of the friends that we can just really pick up right where we left off. And there are many stories. One of the things that we used to love to do to Peter, to tease him, because he teased everyone else. So we would try to go into his, and I, on the way here, drove past his consultation room up in Essex, and I imagine that was beautiful this morning. But one of the funniest things to do was to go and rearrange it and see if he noticed what was wrong. You know, he would be like, "You little fucker," and, to go along with the swearing. And he was not one of the things I also loved about Peter is, and I think he did have a tough beginning, but I think that he showed us that you can have a tough beginning and be present and loving. That emotions like shame don't have to be it can be the beginning, but not the end of the story. So it's just hard to imagine that he's not with us, and he is. Several things he's helped me learn, and I think he probably would have loved it if it was the Peter Gilsey band instead of the Steve Miller band. But that's I guess a next life. I just know that he loved y'all so much, and I think he felt so much like he helped so many of us here feel good. And I would wish for him that he would have let us make him feel good. He couldn't. He really couldn't. So I was kind of joking around this morning. It took him dying to take a compliment. He would hate this. He would have been so far away from here. So I think we all know that. So, anyways, just such a good friend, and so I think with everything said, I could share certainly a lot, but I'm going to try to get through a poem, and I feel that if Peter were here, he would say this to y'all. And it's a poem by John O'Donohue. It's called Bannock, Blessing. On the day when the weight deadens on your shoulders and you stumble, may the clay dance to balance you. And when your eyes freeze behind the gray window and the ghost of loss gets into you, may the flock of colors, indigo, red, green, and azure blue, come to awaken in you a meadow of delight. When the canvas frays and the currach of thought and the stain of ocean blackens beneath you, may there come across the waters a path of yellow moonlight to bring you safely home. May the nourishment of the earth be yours. May the clarity of light be yours. May the fluency of the ocean be yours. May the protection of the ancestors be yours. And so may a slow wind work these words of love around you.
that invisible cloak to mind your life. Thank you.
Other memories and stories, and I would encourage you at some time or another to share those, either today or in the days to come. But I'd like to, when his mouth is not full. Timing is everything, Kai. Invite Kai up.
My mouth is always full.
Hello. My name is Kyla Cameron Gilsey, and I'm Peter's son. As the speaking section of today's ceremony comes to a close, I'd like to offer a heartfelt thank you to all of you on behalf of my mom, Nancy, my sister, Maya, and our families. Thank you for your love, your thoughts, your prayers. Thank you for your visits, texts, cards, and calls. Thank you for your food and flowers, for shoveling, for dragging us to the woods for a walk, and for offering every and any little thing to brighten these dark days. We have indeed been buoyed up by your support. The countless memories that you shared of my dad have provided a much needed counterbalance to the trauma and grief we've been trudging through for the past month. Our hope is that today's celebration of my dad's life will offer that same healing to all of us. As we gather side by side in this beautiful room, overlooking the icy Atlantic. And with that, a final thank you to all of you for being here today, both in person and in spirit. He would be so proud and honored. So I'll now close with a toast of my own. Settle in. As we've heard today, my dad was an absolute lightning rod. He drove fast, listened to music loud, swore like a sailor, and possessed a visceral, electric, and unapologetic energy that was truly a force to be reckoned with. He had a magnetic capability of taking over a room, regaling his audience with a story, amusing or offending the crowd with a joke, and in the early years, serenading the room on a keyboard or grand piano. In this same way, he was the center of the universe in my family. My mom, sister, and I orbited around his bright light, as well as his periodic darkness. As many of you are aware, and as has been referenced today, my dad came from a troubled childhood. Behind the elusive facade of his upper crust, high society, Washington, D.C. family was a dark underbelly of abuse. And behind my dad's more obvious struggles with physical health in recent years was a more constant battle with mental health. Now, this is worth noting because this very same trauma became the driving force behind my dad's professional and personal ambitions. He made it his life's work as a therapist to provide the type of help to others that was not available to him. And he made it his goal within our home to ensure that that legacy of darkness that he was born into did not spill into the next generation. As became the thesis statement of his life, he repeatedly described his purpose as changing the direction of the river. It's worth recognizing that his greatest achievement in this quest was marrying my mom, a woman whom my dad described as having a countenance grounded in the granite of Cape Ann, and a woman who is unquestionably the bedrock of our family. As the story goes,
About 50 years ago, my dad showed up to a summer job at Wadiko, a school for emotionally disturbed boys in the woods of New Hampshire. A job that became his first in the field of mental health, and as he described it, a job that can be a great way to meet a girl. So, my dad drives up this long, bumpy dirt road in a mint BMW sports car, wearing a pressed white Oxford, looking like he got lost on the way to the country club. Only days into that summer session, he was hanging in the parking lot with his buddy Harry when my mom pulled in. Bohemian, blue collar, and beautiful. My dad spotted her, turned to his friend and declared, "I am gonna marry that woman." And by my mom's telling, he came on so damn strong he almost didn't have the chance. But as my mom experienced, and as we've heard today, like so many of us in this room have, there was no telling my dad no. He was intense, but he was infectious. He'd quickly make you feel like a friend by creating a nickname and using it exclusively after just a single meeting. I can still vividly hear him calling out one of my two monikers. "Hey, big," he'd say with a smile, or with an affectionate smirk, "Hey, bitch." As I said, he was irreverent and unapologetic, so while I'm sorry if this second nickname offends you, I can assure you he is not. And I'm glad you're getting a few chuckles out there, and I'm glad this sounds funny to you, but can you imagine what it would be like to be his children? I'll give you a little taste of what that was like. So back in the early Seward Inn days, my dad worked in the kitchen, and he decided to pull a little prank on his least favorite waitress. So mid-dinner shift, he snuck down to the cellar, and he climbed into the full-length commercial freezer chest, covering himself back up with frozen steaks and produce. Next, his accomplice then told the poor waitress that he needed her to fetch something from that freezer. When that freezer lid opened, a scene from Frankenstein ensued. My dad sat straight up, howling like a wounded animal, and the waitress damn near died on the spot. Decades later, when we saw her around town, she'd still cross the street. In elementary school, my dad would drive me to Cape Ann Waldorf School each morning, and we made a tradition of stopping along the way for donuts. However, before allowing me to indulge in my selection, which almost always included rainbow sprinkles, he would wrap me in a queen-sized white bedsheet to ensure that any runaway crumbs would be caught and his OCD would remain in check. This is how I arrived to school. And finally, I knew that underwear would come up at some point today. Throughout my life, during snowstorms, my dad made a habit, or maybe more of a neighborhood show, of climbing out onto the roof of our kitchen to clear off the snow and ice. The kicker was, of course, that he did this wearing only his underwear. I can still see it now as if it were yesterday. Truly, mid-nor'easter, clad only in his Brooks Brothers tighty whities and a pair of bean boots, banging on the roof of the kitchen broom like a madman, all within direct eye shot of my grandparents' living room. So, you all know my dad. You know this section could continue for quite a while. But I'll instead transition here and shine a light on my dad's softer side. I will remember my dad as a good dad. He was my biggest fan, even when he didn't know which team I was on or what sport I was playing. He loved me, he listened to me, and he helped me through the ever-changing tides of life. And it was when those tides rose and the seas became stormy that my dad was at his very best, emerging like a lighthouse from a storm, meeting the moment to provide guidance to safely navigate through to the other side. I will miss having that support on speed dial. And for as odd and eccentric as he could be, he also had a particularly strong moral compass, which you heard my sister reference too. There are 3 particular values that he passed on to me that are values that I will hold forever. Number 1, there is always a right way and a wrong way to do things. The right way is usually hard, and the wrong way is often easy. Pick the right way. This value is on full display when my wife, Samara, and I got married. A glorious day for us, but a challenging one for him. For on this day, he had to step into the spotlight as the father of the groom, a spotlight that shone bright on the declining physical ailments of his disease. Despite his inability to speak clearly or even stand without being held up, he fought like hell and willed himself to give a speech. It was the right thing to do, and it was far from easy. Number 2, march to the beat of your own drum. This value showed up as my dad encouraged my sister to play full pad tackle football. As he left the corporate world to begin his private practice, as he pushed the boundaries of conventional therapy with his clients, and as he showed up in this world as a complete and total one of one. In high school, as I tried to blend into the all-boys, sports-fueled environment of St. John's Prep, my dad would show up to these basketball games in a leather jacket, often painted fingernails, and to cap it all off, a bright red French beret. When I told him, "Dad, you stick out like a sore thumb and some of the other parents are starting to stare at you," he calmly responded to me and turned, and I quote, "I'm sorry, Big. I really don't care because this is a classic fucking hat." And the third value here is that nothing matters more than family. My dad's greatest pride was our tight-knit family unit. Some of the ingredients behind this output was the ritual of Sunday family meetings to hash out tough problems, pulling my sister and I out of school to spend money we did not have on weeks-long family vacations, endlessly preaching his love for his partner, my mom, and breaking up arguments between my sister and I, explaining, fighting just isn't an option, kids. One day, you two are all you'll have. So, to close out this tribute, I'd like to offer you a couple things. First, I'd like to play you a voicemail that my dad left me back in 2019, which I think he'd like you to hear, and I think he'd like you to act upon today. Let's see if I can make this work. Let's see. Here it goes.
Hey, Vic, this Dad. Make sure, excuse me, in life that you tell everybody you feel the way about that you love them. Make sure you tell them. Sure. Make sure you tell them, and don't simply know, tell them that you love them, right? Because that's a good thing to do, right?
And finally, we'll close with a song. I'm not going to sing it. This song is called "It'll All Be Over" by the Supreme Jubilees. And to really pay tribute properly to my dad, let's abide by his music listening rules. As I can still hear him say, as we whirled around the rotaries of 128, stomped on the accelerator with the radio full tilt, "Please don't talk, just listen to the music, baby." Thank you.
you can just hold on. Hold on a little while longer, y'all. One of these old days, baby. One of these old days. It'll all be over. It'll all be over. It'll all be over. Oh, and we won't have to cry no more. We ain't gonna cry no more. Oh, we won't have to cry no more. It's gonna be over now, yeah. It'll all be over. Hey, it'll all be over.
Thanks.
Colin Ty speaks about it this way when it'll all be over. Birth and death are only doors through which we pass, sacred thresholds on our journey. Birth and death are a game of hide and seek. So laugh with me, hold my hand. Let us say goodbye to meet again soon. So I'd like to close us with a Celtic blessing, one that John O'Donohue would approve of. And you can look out. Deep peace of the running wave to you. Deep peace of the flowing air to you. Deep peace of the quiet earth to you. Deep peace of the healing moon and shining stars to you. Deep peace of the Son of Peace. Rest in peace, dear friend. Go in peace. Thank you.